right today?
Yep, just another Monday.
I'm doing good. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep. Excellent. All right, so let's see. Got a bunch of so this Stanislaus County has been everybody's getting on board with first student of Stanislaus County. So do we have multiple agencies on today or?
We do. It looks like we have 3 or 4 agencies on.
All right. Who's all here?
I'm Chris Parnell, Deputy Chief with the Stanislaus County Fire Warden's Office. Looks like we have Keys Fire Department, Newman Fire Department, and Houston Fire Department.
All right. Perfect. So I've been meeting with Modesto, Stanislaus Consolidated, a bunch of others. So seems like everybody's on board, and some departments decided to have meetings outside of this as well, which is perfectly fine. So we'll get everybody up and running, no problem. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Justin Calloway. I am the product specialist for First Due with the assets and inventory and medications modules. I have been here about a year now. Prior to that, I spent almost 5 years working for a different EMS and fire software company as an RFID specialist for inventory and asset management. And before that, I spent a little over 20 years in private EMS and fire. Most of you guys probably know, seen their ambulances around, but I worked for Pro Transport for majority of my career. Helped set up the stations in Stanislaus County, worked in there, ran calls out there, so very familiar with the area. Also worked for Leader Ambulance for a brief moment, and around selling ambulances to a couple of departments out there. So when it comes to the assets and inventory, I do have a bit of experience. So Pro Transport is part of a company called Covalent Health. At one point, they owned 5 companies across the country. It was my job to manage all of the inventory assets and fleet. So we had over 400 ambulance. We would deploy about 400 ambulances a day across the country. And I managed all of the assets and inventory for all of our locations. So whether you're a big department or small department, I should be able to help you guys out. So having a few departments in here is really cool. I'm here to answer any and all questions that you guys have when it comes to this module. So I always like to kind of ask to try to figure out, having multiple departments, everybody might have a different answer, but how are you guys looking at implementing First Due in the assets module in your department?
I know some will be using it for engine and apparatus checks, equipment checks, and work orders and stuff like that for rotating equipment that needs to be worked on.
PPE inventory also.
Excellent.
As far as keys, currently we're using emergency reporting to keep track of all of our equipment, and then like apparatus and maintenance, stuff like that. So I think our plan would be to transition all of that information over here to First Due.
Perfect. Yeah, all that, equipment and stuff like that, we can, you can certainly bring all that information over into first do, if you can export your ER equipment list in if you can export it or run the report, put it as an 808 text file, then that's the easiest way to, because it'll come out into a CSV, and then you can copy and paste that CSV into our template, manipulate that data, and then import that document and bring everything in, all your stuff in. It's a pretty simple process. A little time consuming, depending on how much equipment that you have in there, but it really won't take that long. So, yeah, an 808 text file out of ER will give you a good amount of information to bring over into our system. So, is anybody doing EMS? Are you guys, doing any, inventory, disposable supplies?
If any aren't currently, there's likely that some will, with the other agencies that aren't on the call today. That some agencies will be doing that.
All right. Have you guys done any, what has anybody watched any of the videos that they send over, the assets 101, 201, 301?
We have not. I don't know that we've received those.
Okay. Yeah, with these group calls is a little bit different. We'll do a walkthrough, but all of those videos, you can actually go into the knowledge base. And if you just type in assets, it's the first videos that come up. And these are full walkthroughs of the entire module, broken up into 45-minute intervals.
Awesome. And those are right on your guys' homepage.
Yeah. If you go right into, go to the knowledge base. So if you scroll down, go to support, and you'll see knowledge base. Once you click on there, it'll bring you to our knowledge area where you can type a lot of information in. And you guys should also have this little chat thing here. You can click on here and you can ask questions about any module, and that information will pop up. So if you wanted to see how to create a check.
Awesome.
What it does is it searches the knowledge base and then gives you step-by-step instructions of how to do things.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really handy. So, and at the end here, you can always, make sure if it gives you terrible advice, then make sure you let it know, because that's how it learns. Yeah, we actually have an entire AI team. That's all they do, is make sure that this thing is working correctly. Cool. So has anybody gotten into the system, tried to mess with anything, or any questions or concerns before I give a walkthrough of our module?
No, everybody should have access to it, and I believe everybody has at least their apparatus fleet updated in it. So once they go into that apparatus overview and dashboard and stuff, they should be able to see their apparatus in there.
So let's look in here. Yep, perfect. All right, well, at least Houston's got some stuff in there, so very good. All right, well, so the way I like to, conduct a lot of these meetings, especially these group ones, is ask as many questions or any questions you want to. It doesn't have to pertain to what I'm talking about. Just jump in and ask. I'm happy to answer it. If you want to bounce around a little bit, we can certainly do that. The assets module is the largest module that First Do has. So we may or may not get through the entirety of kind of a walkthrough. We will show you kind of, how to create the checks and the work order boards and those kinds of things within this call. we may not go over certain things. We may kind of just bypass some of the inventory management since it's not the main focus of what you guys are trying to do. We will get to it eventually on a subsequent call. One of the big things I always preface here is I'm not a salesperson, so I'm never going to lie to you about the capabilities of our software. I'm always going to be very honest about what we can or can't do in this software. If we can't do it, then I'll certainly tell you if it's on our roadmap or if it's something that's an upcoming feature. So yeah, I've been in your shoes. I've, had to put software together for, very large agencies. So I understand this is not the only thing that you do. So my job is to, help you guys out, make sure that you get what you need. If you have any questions, concerns, you can always reach out to me. I'm your dedicated, product specialist for the assets module. Uh, I'm also doubly invested because, uh, you know, I'm originally from Sonoma County. I worked in Stanislaus County and all over there. I built stations there. I still have friends that live there. So making sure that your software is up and running and, your vehicle checks are done so that, if one of my friends, ends up needing your assistance, then I feel confident knowing that, everything was in working order prior to you guys going out. So we're going to use my demo site today while we go through this. Uh, just because I have everything set up and it just makes a better visual to go through here. If at any time somebody says, "Hey, can you go into my site and take a look at something?" Absolutely, we can certainly do that as well. So once we log into First Due, it's going to automatically, once you click on assets, it's going to bring you right to the dashboard. This dashboard here is going to show you some brief information. We're going to see the overall checks here. We're going to see a drop-down menu for any, if you have multiple stations, you can see all of those here. You can see all of your apparatus here. If you wanted to select just one location, then you can see all the checks that are due for that location. Anything that is in there that's assigned to that location, whether it's apparatus, stations, pieces of equipment, or kits, if it has a check that's due and it's located at that station, then it's going to show here for that location. If you're just looking at selecting a specific apparatus and see all the checks that are associated with that, you can do that as well. So due today means it's actually due today. So we have a lot of checks that are due today on the 25th. So we can see all of that here. We can start any of our checks from this location as well. So if I was to come in here and start a check for Medic 1, it's going to pop up. And the first thing it's going to do is, this is an optional feature where you can say, I want to know all of the equipment that's on my apparatus. So we can see here, cabinet 1, we can see we have an SVBA 3, 4, we have a cardiac monitor and some kits. The nice thing about this is that we can say, yes, I do have these pieces of equipment. What we're doing is we're verifying and validating that these pieces of equipment are on this apparatus today. Now, if, SCBA 4 wasn't on that apparatus, we could actually come in here and move it to a different location and then come in and add in a different piece of equipment. So if we had SCBA 9, we can now move SCBA 9 from its current location onto cabinet 1 on Medic 1. That's the nice thing about this audit function is, I always wanted to know where my equipment was, and track that equipment and kits for all of my crews. So having that functionality in here is absolutely fantastic. The big thing is if there's ever an incident or if somebody says, "Hey, where is this piece of equipment?" Something came back from the maintenance person, they didn't resolve the issue. We need to pull it off the vehicle immediately. You can quickly and easily locate that piece of equipment because somebody has done that verification here. Once you hit continue, after verifying it, then it brings you into the check. This is where you can update your vehicle hours or odometer, do any of your basic, inspection types in here. Whether you're checking the body or the cab. I'm going to apologize. My allergies are killing me. They've been cutting hay out here in eastern Montana. So It is, man, it's killing me right now. So this is where you can come in and, you can create these checks for yourself, come in, pass or fail these items. You can set it up so if something fails, it'll create a work order. So if I was to click fail on here, it's going to ask me to create a work order. What work order board is it on? What, work order type are we associating with this? Who submitted it? If the crew knows what vendor it's going to go to, they could select that or just leave it blank. You have your assigned team. So who needs to get the notification for that? It's going to show up here. On the check, it's always apparatus type's already going to be selected for you. The summary is always going to be the question that failed. The crew will then come in and put in a description of the incident or the issue that they are failing, and then they're going to hit create. Once they hit create, an email gets sent to the assigned people of that work order board. Now, let's say tomorrow that issue isn't big enough to take the vehicle out of service, but the crew can come in, and if they click fail, they're going to see this icon here that shows them that there's a work order already created for that issue. So they're not going to create multiple work orders for the same failed question. They can come in here and click the button. They can view any of this information, kind of see, that way they're not coming to call, hey, what's going on with this issue? They can just look in here and say, okay, it was reported yesterday. We don't need to take any further action on this, and then they can just continue on with their inspection. You can see that we do have some that are required. Down below, there's going to be some that are not required on here. I'm sure you noticed our nested checks functionality up here. So what this nested check function does is it will give you a check inside of a check. So I'm a stickler for equipment inspections, whether it's daily or weekly, but ensuring that that piece of equipment is in working order prior to going out is a big deal. So being able to come in here and make sure that you are writing it down. We know that the crews are doing this every day. They're checking to make sure that their monitors are up and running. They're making sure that their saws are fueled and start up on a regular basis. But if we don't write it down, it didn't happen. So if there was ever an incident in the field, then you would be able to quickly and easily say, when was the last time that piece of equipment was checked? You can go to that piece of equipment and say, oh, it was checked yesterday and it passed everything, or it was checked this morning and everything was in working order. Once you do that, you can come in here and sign for it, and now that has been completed. So that's the nice thing about these nested checks, whether you do these daily, weekly, or monthly, having that record of, one, do I know where it is? Two, when was the last time somebody actually physically put eyes on it and touched it and wrote down, what happened? Now, I know that many years ago, I asked my partner, did you check the ambulance before we go out? And they said, absolutely. Cool. Well, we got our first call, responded, opened up the back, and there was no gurney. Unfortunate for us, fortunately, another ambulance had already responded, and, we just used their gurney. But, you only do those things once. You only show up with, a bad piece of equipment one time because you didn't inspect it. But I'd rather not have those kind of lessons be learned by the crews. And, let's figure out a way to get some of these inspections going for these guys. They're doing it anyway. They're already looking at these things. We're just documenting them to make sure that they actually get done. So that's the nice thing about our checks, our nested checks, making sure that those things are done. If you want to conduct inventory, maybe those audits on, a weekly basis, you don't need them done every day. I can certainly show you how to do all of those as well. Do you just need to do, your location, apparatus checks? You can see all those here. So within all of our location or our apparatus checks, you can see all of the checks that are associated with truck one. So we have the DOT check, the daily check, the engine check, the rescue check, compartment inspection. If we click start check here, it's going to show us what checks are scheduled and what are overdue. If there's any in here, we can see those, any incomplete. You can see your history in here. This one's going to be a little better. You know, any incomplete checks would be here, your history of checks. If you want to see, you know, what was checked, what was passed, what was failed, you can come in here and see all that. You can see here that there's, you know, this was failed. Here's the work order. Here's the information for that. You could print these if you wanted to as well. You can come in here, hit the print button. It'll pop up like this, and then you can print this off and send this out if you wanted to. You have your equipment here. Now, the nice thing about equipment and kits is that when it's going to show you all this information, but it's also going to show you where it's currently assigned to. So if it's assigned to an apparatus, then what's going to happen is it's actually going to show up as a nested check in that apparatus. So if you're looking through here, then you're going to be able to know, okay, this one is currently assigned to, you know, medic 1, this is truck 1, truck 2, and you know, you could start those checks from here if you wanted to, or you could just wait until you're inside of that apparatus check. Kits are going to be the same way. You're going to see all of your kits here and the current location of those kits as well. On the right-hand side is assigned equipment. So any equipment that is assigned to a user is going to show up here in their assigned equipment. So each user, you know, I know somebody mentioned their PPE, they're tracking all of that. If it's assigned to a user, then it's actually going to show up here. And they're going to be able to see all the equipment that's currently assigned to them. If there's any checks associated with it, they're actually going to show up here as well. The nice thing is that this also shows up on the app. So crews can actually come in here and see this information on their app and conduct any checks for their personal equipment from the app as well. Kits the same way. If you're assigning kits to your employees, then it's going to show up here as well. Any checks would be available, would show up here. Down below is my work orders. This is a pretty cool little feature. This is any work order that the user has either created or is assigned to them. And this is just a nice little quick feature for them to be able to come in and say, okay, here's all the, you know, either I created this or this is assigned to me. And this is going to show up here. They can actually do a preview here where they could see any of that information. If they wanted to, they could click this button here. And it's actually going to take them to the work order boards, which I'll show you in a few minutes. Any questions?
Are all these checklists like the CBA and the daily or weekly apparatus, are these already pre-built in First Two, or is that something each agency needs to do on their own?
Very good question. Both.
Okay.
So there are some canned checks that are in here. So these are checks that we have created. They're all NFPA checks. You can use these checks. You can manipulate them, add, delete, whatever you want with these checks. We also have additional ones in the checklist library that you can quickly and easily come in and import into the system and bring that in. If you wanted to edit any of these, you could come in and take a look and see, you know, maybe these will work for you, maybe they won't work for you. And kind of take a look and see what would be the best for you. There's a couple ways to edit these checks. You can use the edit button here. You can also download that check and bring it into a CSV file. And it puts it into this format here. And now you could come in and change the name, you know, change your, you know, add or remove sections in here. If you want to, you know, change the names of the questions, maybe you want to change, you know, the question type. If you want to make it required, true, or not required is going to be false. And then re-import this back in. That's a way as well to do these things. If you're using checks from a different system, let me know. If you can export those into a PDF, a Word, Excel, you can always send them to me I will send them to my AI guy and he will convert them into our template. I'm a big fan of not reinventing the wheel. If you already have checks that you use that your crews are used to and they work for you guys, let's put those in the system. Let's make your life exponentially easier by doing that. If you don't have checks, you're like, we just want to start from scratch. This is a good way to do it. Take a look at what these are and how, maybe you want to use some of these as checks for yourself. That, here's your category, right? If you want to, kind of put in all that information and, pass or fail, make it required or not required. This is a good way to kind of see what some other people are doing. You do have departments within Stanislaus County that are creating a bunch of these. Let's see here. Stanislaus Consolidated is hard at work in here. So I can show you here. They have a bunch of checks they created in here. So you could always, so the cool thing about a lot of these things is that you could take some of these, if they have a good check that you were like, hey, that's exactly what I need. I want that check. It's easy enough for them to just download this and send you that file. And then you can upload that right into your system and it's a one-to-one copy. So, consider that as something that you could do to kind of get yourself up and running. Heads up, like dog might start barking. We're having some people coming to do a little remediation on a little water leak we had over the weekend. So you may get a little excited. So hopefully that kind of answers that yes or no question. We do have a lot of canned checks. If you have a neighboring department using First Due and they have a check that you like, they can export it, send it to you, and you can import it into your site. It would take about 2 minutes to do that. Are you guys? Is anybody using a current system to do checks?
We're still just pen and paper.
Cool. Well, even even with pen and paper, it's easy enough to you could actually recreate that in the system. You can come in here, use import CSV, download this sample spreadsheet, open this document up, and then recreate what you currently have here. So that section name is going to be the category. So you're checking the cab, maybe the front officer's compartment, drivers, engineer, cabinet 1, cabinet 2, kind of whatever you're looking for. And then what is the question, the description, and then that kind of answer here. Is it a single select? This could be if you're checking for fuel, we could say it's full, 3/4, half, empty. And what it'll do is it'll give you the ability by answering, putting that in, it'll create you different lines that your users can select. And then a multi-select is going to be the same thing as just they can answer multiple questions. They can give you multiple answers on here. Then you have your pass fail, a user defined, which is a text field. So they're just going to write something in. And then a field update. These field updates are really cool. You can't import them, which I wish you could, but a field update is really cool. So if I was to change this to a field update, what it does is it gives me some different options here. So if I'm tracking the odometer and maybe my engine hours, what this will do is when they add that in, it actually makes it a permanent record of that apparatus. which then ties into your preventative maintenances. So if you're doing preventative maintenance off an engine hours and odometer, this is going to tick down to trigger those preventative maintenances for you. Utilizing uh, these field updates. Now, because it's selected an apparatus, it only gives you apparatus information, but it also works for equipment. So if we wanted to come in here and look at equipment, we can add a whole host of information for equipment. You know, maybe you're checking a rope and you want to make sure that you're capturing some information in here to make sure it's a permanent record of your rope. Maybe it's something for your hose. You're trying to track, you know, this information, SCBAs. You name it, you know, we have almost all of it in here. If you're checking the PPE, you know, since you're tracking PPE, you want to make sure that you're capturing the boot size and width for your employees. Maybe you want them to make sure you don't have, maybe you're not capturing the size information. You just know which one you gave them. You can start capturing that information. And actually, you can start making your crews capture that information for you. I mean, they're going to do a monthly, biannual inspection on their clothes. Maybe you're making them wash their clothes. And every time they do so, they're going to do an inspection form. You can make sure you're capturing this information every time. Now, utilizing field updates. Since we're on here, and checks is a big thing for you guys, we're going to make sure. So checklist name, obviously, this is the name of your checklist. We have multiple answers here. We have a required user check, which gives you a thumbs up functionality, which kind of passes everything in one shot. We have the required user check no pass all, which requires a user to go down and check each box. Now we know that, you know, we're making a lot of assumptions when crews do these things here. We're just trying to slow them down, making the assumption that they're going to read the full question before they click the pass button. So we're giving them that ability to, you know, hopefully read that question before they just, you know, run down and just click the buttons. We have the pre-fill pass, which everything is passed, and then the pre-fill fail, which everything fails. The applies to apparatus, equipment, location, or kit. You're going to select this because it gives you, especially for the field updates, but it also is saying that this check is only for apparatus or only for equipment. Only for station locations or for kits. The next is your assigned to. I don't recommend assigning this to anybody. If you just leave these blank, it allows everybody to view that. If you have a check that is only needs to be visible to a specific person or a group of people, they're the only people that'll see it. So if I were to select people that are in my site, because I'm not on there, I'm not going to be able to see that check. I'm not going to see that it's due. I'm not going to see it's past due. I'm not going to see that it's assigned. I'm not going to see it at all. So I recommend just leaving it blank. The same with teams. We're just going to go past this and not touch it. Unless you have a specific check that is dedicated to one person or one group, I say let it go. A lot of times what happens is somebody comes in there and they select everybody except for one person. And then they call me up and go, hey, everybody can see it except for this one person. And then I just clear this out and everybody can see it. So schedule when it's in service and primary, when it's in service and reserve. You can select when you want this check to be completed. So if it's out of service, obviously, you know, we don't need a check being completed on it. So we're not going to select that. If it's in reserve status, we technically don't need it to be checked on a daily basis, but maybe we want to have another check that we create that is, you know, maybe a monthly check on reserve units. You can do that. The equipment and kit audit, what we saw earlier when we were looking at that validation of that equipment, this is what we're talking about. Do you want to, on this daily check, do we want to also do that equipment and kit audit to verify the equipment and kits that are on that apparatus? Do we want to require it? Do we just want them to look at it and they can do it, they can't do it? Or do we even care on this specific check if they do an audit? Maybe we have a weekly one that the audit's required, so the daily check doesn't require. Is it active? Do we want to require a signature when they complete it? And then compartments required. You're going to assign a compartment to your checks, and you can make them required or not required, meaning that if you want them to conduct an inventory of soft goods, then you would probably want to require that compartment. Otherwise, you can not require those compartments, and then that's going to, allow you to still complete your equipment and kit audit on that without requiring a full inventory of your system. Any field updates, especially if you're doing hours and odometer and PTO, hours and stuff like that, it'll display the previous values. Do you want to make that question required? Yes or no? And then you would just kind of come down and verify all this information, making sure, do I want to require it? Do I not want to require it? What happens if something fails? How do I get that work order to associate with a failed question? You would turn on the create work order, and then you would look at the work order types. So you would see all the work order boards that are bold, and then the work order types that you've created within there. So you would want to have something in here that would be closely associated. So this one here, obviously we would want onto probably the apparatus board. So we would select something in here that would be, associated with, this question. Whether it's the apparatus board, maybe a vehicle maintenance board, you're going to create these boards and you're going to create these work order types that you could associate with these. So you would end up coming through and looking through all of your questions to make sure make sure that there are associate here. So if we want to come in here, if it failed, it's because it's low. We want to send that work order. We want to get somebody to get that email so that they can create get that thing in for service or do whatever they need to do for that piece of equipment. Now, once you create that checklist, then you actually have to come and schedule that check. So the check is not currently live until it's scheduled. So you come in and go to add schedule, you create that name, whatever you want it to be. When is the first day you want that check to start? You would select that start date. When is it due? So if it's due at 10 a.m., it's past due at 10:01. So that's going to let that due time is. If you leave it blank, it defaults to 23:59. Your schedule type, we have a whole bunch of schedules in here. We have on demand, which is never due. It's never past due. It's whenever they get around to it. So a lot of times departments will do a morning check and then they'll do a post-trip check, and they want that check to be the same one as their daily morning check. So we'll create a separate schedule for that post-trip check and make that on demand, because you never know when you're going to run a call, so you can't technically schedule it. You can make a custom. So depending on your shift rotation, you can have it up to a 28-day rotation on here. A good one to show is a 6-day rotation. So this would be a good one for a 48-96 schedule. You can come in here, create something like this. You would apply it to apparatus. We'll select truck 1, and then you select the checklist in here. You would then highlight the select, and then highlight the days that you want to start. So on a 6-day rotation, starting on the 26th, the first day you would do this, the second day it would not be due, and then the third day it would be due. So this is the start of the 48, and this is the start of the 96. Within this schedule, you can have up to 3 different checks associated with it. So if you wanted to put in multiple checks and make them, put them on a schedule that pops up for that specific apparatus, or maybe this apparatus group, you could certainly do that as well. We have our custom monthly, which, I'm a big fan of, is I can come in here and, maybe I want this check to be due on every Sunday, or maybe I want to be the first Sunday of every month. doing that, starting on the 26th, is going to be due on the first Sunday of every month. So technically, it wouldn't be due here on the 31st. It would actually come in and be due on the 7th, because that's the first Sunday of the month. So depending on how you guys want to manage your schedules, and put those kinds of things in, put your different inspections in there. We have a wide array of ability to do that. We have our normals are daily, weekly, monthly, every 3 months, 6 year. Maybe you want to do every year. You could come in there and select, when it's going to be due. Another thing you can do is a start early function. We have people that come in and say, we want to, we have an inspection on, every September, but we give them the entire month to complete the inspection. So what we recommend is make the due date the last day of the month, but allow them to start the check early. So if they start at 30 days early, means they have the entire month and it's actually not past due until the end of the month. So they'll still get that little start button where they can start the inspection, but it won't be past due until the end of the month. So that little start early function is really nice on here. And this is something that's good that a lot of people will utilize for some of your annual inspections. You don't want to just show up on the last day of the month and then all of a sudden you have a couple hundred pieces of equipment to do. You want to take the entire month to be able to handle something like that. So you can certainly come in here. Maybe you want to say, I want to start it, 2 months early. You could do that as well. So lots of functionality when it comes to the schedule. But like I said, once you create that check, it's not technically live until it's actually scheduled. So let's get into our work order boards. So work order boards, these are pretty simple to make. Is you would come in here, create that work order board name. So whatever it is, right? An apparatus board. You can make PPE board, a hose board, an SCBA board. We recommend making some preventative maintenance boards, apparatus preventative maintenance, equipment preventative maintenance. There's departments out there who everybody has a different role and a different PPE that they're responsible for. So, you got your hose people, your SCBA people, your ladder people, your turnout gear people. You can create a board for them for any issues or preventative maintenances that you want. It is recommended, so get these type of equipment in here. Assign notification to assigned user or team. This is really nice, is that whoever is part of that team or that user group that you create, they're going to get a notification every time a work order is created. The same goes with whoever submitted it. They're also going to receive a notification that they submitted a work order. Now, if you're the person who reports it and you're assigned to it, you're going to receive 2 emails, one that says you created it and one that says you are assigned to it. Teams are created in the admin menu under fire prevention teams. Come in here, create those teams, and then it's just start adding all the users that you want to have assigned to that team. Your phases, you can have up to 5 phases. You need to have at least 2. One, because it's going to show up in this phase here. And then, kind of your workflow process in here. And then this final phase, this is where it's going to close out. And then we have archive work order after. So once it's closed in this closed status, how long is it going to remain on the board before it is archived and could no longer be opened again? And that's here. And then restrict board 2. We are very group heavy in our software, so everything relies on groups. So you're going to create your various groups for your apparatus, your equipment, your locations, your kits. because different vehicles, different pieces of equipment have different requirements. So have a separation of those types of things, so you can have your engine board, a truck board, or maybe you just want to add everything all into one. You could do that. Same with equipment. Maybe if you have somebody who's only dedicated to, your PPE, be able to come in here, select your PPE, and this is just for the PPE group. Maybe it's just for hose or SEBA. You name it, you can create it like that. Your work order types, you're going to create these work order types. You can make them very specific, very granular. You can make them kind of generic, but specific at the same time. Your fluid leaks, your electrical problems, those types of things. Or, we also have people who literally come in here and say high, medium, or low, and then match up high, medium, or low priority levels with their work order type names. Completely up to you. There's no template or copy and paste functionality with this. So you will have to come in and create those various work order types for yourself. So since we're looking at, those work order boards, this is what the work order boards look like. So the nice thing about the work order boards is it gets you this tile functionality where you're able to see, a nice little description. If it's a high, medium, or low, it's visual in a color format where you can see, your high is red, medium is yellow, and your low is green. Makes it easy to see visually. We can click on any of these, give you a little preview of any information going on here. If you have any, cost, maybe some notes in here, it's all going to show here. If you have the ability to come in here and edit based on your permissions, you can come in and get into the work order board now. See the information, who submitted it, its current status, work order types. If it's big enough to take that vehicle out of service, just click it, take it out of service. If you want to update any information, you want to update hours or odometer. If you want to add any documents or pictures, you can do that from here as well. And there's not a specific format that you have to have in here. You just come in here and drop any files you want in there. If you're tracking your costs, so your labor costs, whether it's a flat fee or maybe an hourly rate you want to put in there, you can do that as well. If you're conducting the service in-house and you're managing the inventory in-house and you're checking all those costs, you can put that in here as well. If you're gathering it off of a work order that you're getting from the mechanic and you just want to add in the information, you can do that as well. Your comment section is kind of this little notebook in here where you can put in any information of what's going on with that work order. Your history is a full history of that work order. Anytime something happens or updates in here, you're going to see all of that information in here. Anytime you update the status, do something in here, it's going to be right here. You can print this in a PDF. You can archive it from here. You can send it as an email to an internal user or to an external user by putting in their email address in here. And then at the end, you can just close, save that. Now, once you're on this screen, here's the really cool part is you don't have to get into the edit function of the work order to update the status of it. All you have to do is drag it and drop it, and it automatically updates that status for you. The other thing is once you update that status by dragging and dropping, it will send an email to all the people who are associated with this work order board to let you know that a work order has updated status. So anytime you move these things around, somebody's going to get an email. Luckily, nobody gets an email when I do this, and because that would be very annoying. But once I close this and put in this completed status, it automatically closes that work order. The other part of this is that it'll stay here for that predetermined amount of time, that timeline that I set when I created the work order, whether it's a day, 2 days, a week, 9 months, it doesn't really matter. It's up to you guys and how long you want that to sit here in this completed status. Good rule of thumb is always, allow it to be on here so all 3 shifts can at least see what's going on and make sure, so everybody can see that that work order has been completed. But that's up to you guys. We do have a list functionality, which is pretty cool. Is going to show you all work orders, whether it's completed or not. But you can come in here and choose different views in here. If you want to see just your open work orders, you can sit here and create a view that shows you just open work orders. Any of those can be created in an add view function. Create that view. Maybe you have just engines or just SCBAs or just a specific station, and you want to create views for those people. You could come in here and easily create those in here, add any filters you want in here. So, if you're looking at, a location, be able to come in here and say, I just want to select a specific location. So any items that are associated with that station are going to be what shows up on this board. So that's pretty nice feature there. If we go back into the master view here, you can use this filter functionality to search for work orders. Maybe you want to see a certain work order board. You are looking for a specific status on here. Maybe you want to see, a specific user on here, maybe a team. You want to see all the work orders that are open for truck one or completed for truck one. You can certainly do that. So you can utilize these filters to be able to kind of customize that view that you're looking for on here. Any questions so far? I know this is a lot of information, and this is recorded, so you will get a copy of this recording at the end. But I encourage everybody to just ask questions as you're kind of going through these things. So we'll go back up here now. We're going to look at our apparatus overview. So we're looking at the overview here. You can see our fleet overview. You can see I have my items in groups here, my truck, my ambulance, my apparition removal, and other groups sitting up here on the left-hand side. I can click over here and just see my trucks, just see my ambulances. And then here you can see all of your apparatus. Anything that's underlined is something that you can click on. So you want to take your vehicle, out of service, you can quickly and easily do that from here. You can put it into reserve status from here as well. Save that. If you want to conduct any checks that are currently due, you can start that from here. If there's any open work orders for your vehicle, you can click here and see how many are currently open for that vehicle. If you want to get the overview of that vehicle, you click on that vehicle. Now you can see here, we've got our overview here. We've got a picture of the apparatus, manufacture date, how much water, odometer, hours are all sitting here. Its current location, the last time it was checked. We can see our work order history by clicking on that button. Here's our full work order history for that apparatus. We can create a work order from this location. If we're tracking fluids, we could come in here and track fluids. We want to track our fuel. We could add that information. If they're at the gas station, you could upload your receipts right here as well. Your log entry. So basically, this is just a little notes if you want to add files here. I know everybody's got that 3-ring binder in the vehicle right now. You could come in here and add some of that information and make it a record of the vehicle. Now, this is not accessible to the crews on the app, but as administrators, at least it's here in one central location. I'll come back to this later. You can take your vehicle in service or out of service here, primary or reserve. We do have an out of service log. So anytime you take this vehicle out of service, it starts the timer. So you can see the total lifetime out of service for that apparatus will be here. Our checklist, this is going to show you any checks that are due or past due in here. So you can start checks from here. You can see your checklist history from here. Which is really nice. If you wanted to see a specific check, you could select any of those checks that you wanted to see. You can see any incomplete checks, so checks that haven't been completed are going to show up in here. Our inventory usage and restock. So if you are managing inventory and you want to manage those ins and outs or usages from your apparatus, you can do that as well. So you can add, items here, select the location where you need it from, save that. Now it adds it to a restock list. If you have the abilities to restock from this location, then it'll give you that restock functionality. And it's going to say, hey, where do you want to restock it from? If you're conducting a usage, what's the incident number? What item was used? Where was it used from? How many did you use? Did you restock it? If you did, where did you restock it from? If you didn't, you can add it to your restock list here. And it's going to show up in here. If you're making a request, maybe you need items and you want to request an item, you can come in here and request an item, some medical supplies, put in that inventory, item that you're requesting. So we need a gas can, one, and we'll click save. And now we created that request. It's not going to show up here, but we've created a request for an item on there. Any work orders. So to show your work order history here, compartments. So compartments are going to be something that you can create from this location for all of your apparatus. So where are the items located on your apparatus, whether it's inventory, kits, or equipment? What is on your apparatus? You can click on new compartment, create a compartment from this location. Compartment name. You can add your inventory items on here. You can add your specific equipment. We do have an equipment group now where you can come in and go, I'm going to select my group. Make sure I want to have one of these, and then come in here and, select the items that you have on here. And it's going to tell you I'm one of one items. That way you have that functionality when you get to that audit where it's going to show you those groups. And the nice thing about, this functionality, come on, let's say, we need to save that. Oops. Is if I was to come in here and conduct, my daily check here, you can see here, SCBA 2. So it's telling me I need to have a minimum of 2 of these items. Now, like this one here, where it says 4, I'm supposed to have 2 here, but I only have 1. What's going to happen is it's actually going to ask me, how come I don't have the required amount here? And I'm able to come in here and, put in a reason why I don't have that item in here. And I can hit continue. And now I can move on with my check. So that's the benefit of having those groups in there, is it allows you that functionality to be able to see that. Compartments. So there's another way to do this when you are importing your equipment. If you know what piece of equipment goes onto an apparatus, then you can actually add that compartment on the spreadsheet. When you import your equipment, it'll create the compartment and assign that piece of equipment to the compartment for you. So kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone on that functionality for you. And I'll show you how that functions here in just a couple minutes. We have our fluids. So if you are tracking fluids, it's going to give you that fluid log so you can see, how much you're spending on fuel. And then lastly is your log here. Anything that basically happens within your apparatus is all going to show here. So that log book for that specific apparatus or piece of equipment. Now our equipment overview, location, and kit overviews are all going to look very similar. So your equipment overview, you have all of your groups, and we very much recommend groups. especially for equipment. We also recommend this kind of functionality where you're saying it's part of the hose group, but it's a 1.5 inch, it's a 1 3/4, a 2, 4, your bunker gear, your PPE, whatever you call it. Kind of have it designated so that you can see that, it's boots, it's pants, it's jackets, helmets. Quickly and easily can identify those various groups and see the items within that group. This also helps out if you're making checks specific to those items or creating preventative maintenance schedules for those particular items. Then you're able to specifically pull out just the groups that you're looking to inspect or have checks for those days. Same thing is, anything that is highlighted and underlined is something that you can click on. So if you wanted to go to the overview, you can see here. Now this is a little bit different, is you can assign it to a user, compartment, storage, or pouch. So if you wanted to assign it to a specific apparatus, maybe to a station or a kit pouch, you can do all of that from here, in service or out of service. Your checklist, if there's any checklists associated, any work orders, and then your logbook is going to show here as well. Location overview, this is going to be your stations. Same thing, come in here, your station information, any checklists associated. If you're managing inventory usage and restock, you're going to do that here. Any associated work orders. Your storages are your locations within your area, where your items are, your SCBA room, your PPE room, those types of, places are all going to show up here. You can create all that information within your locations. This is where you can come in and conduct your inventory, manage your equipment, manage your kits, all from, within this location here. Kits are going to be the same way. So all your kits, your various kit groups, you got your EMS kits, your fire kits, your hose kits, your whatever, right? Anything that's in a bin box container of some type is going to be considered a kit within our system. We looked at our work order boards. Preventative maintenance. This is where you can create preventative maintenances for all of your pieces of equipment, apparatus, and locations. Apparatus, you can schedule it days, weeks, months, years, in any time frame. You can also trigger it by hours and odometer. So cool thing is you can put your odometer in here. You can also come in here and put hours, so it can be odometer or hours, whichever occurs first. You could do a schedule. Maybe you want to do it, every 6 months or every so many hours, whichever occurs first. And this is where those work order boards come in. You create those preventative maintenance boards, and this is going to be an oil change, a tire rotation, a transmission flush, whatever it is, an A service, B service, C service, whatever you designate in here. This is where you're going to put that information in here, and then you're going to apply it to either that group by selecting the group or selecting the individual apparatus that you want associated with this schedule. Now you can have a schedule and a trigger or 2 triggers, but you cannot have 2 schedules. Equipment is going to be the same thing. You can trigger it by equipment hours, or you can schedule it. I'm still waiting. Somebody's going to be the first company that actually tracks equipment hours. But you could come in here and create your preventative maintenance for your equipment. Come in here every year, select your work order type and apply it to, whatever equipment type or equipment group that you've created. And that could be done and triggered on an annual basis. Your location, this is something as well. You can only have schedules on here, days, weeks, months, years. This is really change the batteries in your smoke detectors, change the HVAC filter. Sometimes you can use this for your security certificates for your email, make sure, server maintenance, that kind of stuff you can certainly put in here. I'd probably recommend maybe a once a month, clean out the refrigerator function. That way, at least somebody gets an email saying, hey, it's time to clean out the refrigerator. Make it go to a monthly instead of an annual. thing. You know, you can assign it to whoever you want on there. If you need to execute or update one of your work or your preventative maintenance, you click on the edit. You can see here, here's your miles, current miles for that apparatus. Here's the next due. Here's the hours. Here's the work order type. So we could come in and say, actually, I want to do this right now. You hit the execute button, it pulls this up and actually creates this work order now, and then sends the email to the appropriate person that this is now due. For that. Our apparatus, equipment, location, kit list, all going to look very similar in here. So this is going to be obviously your apparatus list. If you click here, it's going to take you to that overview. But if you click on the pencil, it's actually going to take you to the apparatus itself. So if we actually go into, let's see, fusion's online. So let's come in here, look at assets. We're going to go into the apparatus list. We'll take engine 239, click on the pencil. So this is where you can update any of this information if you wanted to. And put this in here. We also have this cool VIN decode functionality. So what it does is it actually selects and looks at all this information. So we found this information online. You can bring it in, you can hit add. It'll actually add this information to your vehicle records in here. So I've seen this thing pull up ATVs, trailers, boats, you name it. If it's got a VIN number, then it will search and find something. So, you know, look at here. So you see, you know, the full name of the Pierce Manufacturing, you know, manufacturer ID, you know, a lot of information in here that, you know, you might not have had previously. Within the specifications, because of the apparatus type, it gives you a little more functionality in here where you can add in your tire size, your gallons of water. You can put in your pump information in here as well. You wanted to add in any of this information, you can certainly do that. Sometimes this information will pull in from the VIN decode functionality. It does, you know, for, you know, my vehicle, it'll pull in all this displacement, cylinder size, you know, engine size, all right here. So definitely a cool function. You know, especially for this additional information, if you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of what your water and foam capacity are on that apparatus. Maybe you want to have your pump information in here. You can certainly update that as well. Equipment list is going to be, you know, very similar to what we saw earlier. You know, this is where you can add in each piece of equipment individually. And if you want to put some information in here, you can. Our specifications here, this is the cool part. So we saw earlier on the check sheet for those field updates, this is going to give you that functionality, right? So if it's rope, then now we can say we want to capture all this information for our rope. If it's for hose, maybe we want to capture the diameter. You want to know the coupler type, the jacket type, the hose type, you know, add all that information in here. This could be information you're currently capturing. Maybe you're not capturing it, but you want to, you know, ensuring that you have the correct equipment type assigned to your pieces of equipment, then you'll be able to capture all this information either through a check or during your import, kind of however you want to bring it in. So equipment type is really nice. Now, here's the cool part with the equipment list itself is you'll be able to come in and use the import wizard. Now, if you have a sheet, you just want to import it in, you can take some random file and click on here and, you know, let's see here. Let me find something. Just updated all my stuff, so. We'll use one of your neighbors. So you can see here, it pulls in. So this is the first due name, the database name. So you can match on your file the columns that match with what we have. So you don't have to put it into our template. You could actually use your own and just add in that information. This just happens to be our template. That's why it matches 1-to-1. But you don't have to. Now, the only thing that needs to come in is name and equipment ID. Equipment ID is a unique identifier that you have set in your system that says this item is associated with this number. It's the only two things that are required in our system. Once you click next, it's going to verify the information and allow you to import. If there's any issues or anything, it's going to tell you what it is and how to resolve it. I recommend our sample spreadsheet because it is an exact match of what you need to bring in. So you have your group name. If you create a group name on this sheet, it will create it for you in the system. So you don't have to create group names and then assign items later. You can all do it from here. Your name and equipment ID are the only required items. Now, if you have a tracking mechanism in your system, then you're able to kind of use that you already have, maybe a barcode, something like that. You could certainly do that as well. Is it in service? It would be true. Is it primary? It's true. Make, model, description. If you're assigning items to users, this is really important. It's the user's login email address that would be utilized in this column. So once you put their email address that they use to log in, then when you import this, it automatically will assign to that user. So you don't have to go in and later and assign. So if you already have a list of who has what gear, you can use this sheet to do that. Apparatus name. Apparatus must exist in the system prior to upload. You can create the compartments. If you know what compartment that piece of equipment goes onto, you can create that compartment here. It'll create it for you in the system and assign that equipment for you. What I've also seen is maybe you don't know what piece of equipment is on what apparatus, but you know what compartments you have on every apparatus. I recommend creating a fake part and a fake equipment ID. Assign your apparatus and create your compartments. When you import this, it'll create all those compartments for you automatically. Then all you have to do is go in, delete the parts out of the compartment, and then delete your parts out of here. It'll create all of your it'll create all your compartments for you. Station name or number must exist in the system, but the storage name does not. You can create that in here. It'll create it for you automatically. As you can see here, this is all the information you can put in here. I mean, it's a lot. So you can capture all. If you have this information, you want to add it in into the spreadsheet and import it in. More power to you. If you don't have it but want to capture it, then it's available to do so at a later date. Your location list is going to be your all your current locations in here. You can come in here. You can edit that location by clicking the button. You can see all that information in there real quick. You can also, this is where you can come in, click on your station, and then start, creating here's all your information, your checklist, inventory usage, restock. This is where you can create your storages in here. Kit list. Kit list is fantastic. This is where you can create all of your kits. Click on new kit, kit name, kit group. If you don't have a group, you can create it. Your kit ID, you can assign it to a location, person, make it go in service, add a picture here if you'd like. The great thing about our kit functionality is once you create a kit, and you can create it in its entirety, put in, create all your pouches, where are your items located, add in your information into each one. Once you've created this, the nice thing about our kit function is you don't have to do that a whole bunch of times. You can actually just come here, click on this duplicate button and recreate as many kits as you need in here. Just put a new kit ID. You can assign it to a location, or you can leave it blank and assign it later. Inside the system, you can create up to 20 kits at a time. So if you need 100, just do this 5 times. And then it'll recreate those kits inside the system for you. And then if you have a kit that's a little bit different from one to another, you can easily go in and recreate some of those, manipulate and update, the ones that you want. So that's the nice functionality about those kits. Our inventory management, I know, this may not be something that is going to be utilized a lot by some of you, but, we could go over this more a little bit, just kind of give you a brief thing. Our global restock, this is where items, once you put something on a global restock list, it's going to show up here. This is your request boards where if somebody's requesting items. This is, where those are going to show up. Your inventory list is going to show you all of your current inventory in here. If you click on the actions button, it'll show you, your inventory, you're tracking your quantity, minimum, par, expiration dates, that information in here. You can see all of that. You would see all of the current locations where this item is located. So it would give you a full list of everything in here. Our receipt log, this isn't going to really be totally functional until we have our purchase management system towards the end of the year. Their usage log, if you are tracking usage, then you can see all of that here. And then anytime something was restocked, you can see that here on a restock log. So I know we've gone through a lot. I can continue to go through some things. We're running short on time. But we are gonna, go over more on the next call. Really dig into our equipment lists, inventory if we're doing that. So some of the big homework for you guys is going to be, start working on looking at what kind of, checks you want to create. Maybe some of our checks are going to work for you. Maybe one of the neighboring departments who's already kind of up and running with some of this stuff has a check that you want to import into your system. I would certainly talk to them. Chris Costa has been on the majority of the calls. He has, he's doing a lot of this stuff for a couple departments. So certainly talk to him if you want to see some of the stuff that he's doing. I'm sure he's happy to help out and share. If not, I'm gravely mistaken. But yeah, talk to your neighboring departments. Maybe they have something that they've already created. You can just borrow from them. They can export that out easily. Gather equipment if you have equipment lists, whether it's PPE, or just your standard equipment. Start gathering those lists and getting those ready, and we can start working on, helping you guys put those together. Either use the current, list that you have, or walk you through the process of kind of, copying and pasting into our template and getting that prepped for import. I recommend if somebody has a good list of equipment that's going to be good for demonstration purposes. I know if somebody talked about their ER export, we could always use that as part of our demonstration. Sorry about that. So we could use that for the next call. If we'd like to do that and kind of walk through the process of kind of moving that data onto the sheet. We'll also go over on the next call our bulk checks, our swap history, the out of service log. We're going to go through our setup functionality, where we'll walk through all of our setup here. We'll look at notifications and all of our groups and fluid types as well. So if you guys have any questions, fire them out. We got a few minutes. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Just had a quick question for you, Justin. On the checklist, on the different items, one of the tabs says create work order, and you can select it or not. If you don't have that selected, are they not able to create the work order for that item that failed?
Correct.
Okay, so if it's not selected, it'll just show as a failed item and nothing will happen in the work order process.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Very good question. So as far as this group goes, do you guys have like an idea of when you'd like to get on another call? Or would you, because it is kind of a group functionality, I can send you a meeting link and then you guys can kind of get together and determine when you would like to have another call. Either is perfectly fine with me.
Yeah, I think if you want to send Chad Homey the meeting link and to select a date, and then we'll get together and get that scheduled and then get
Okay.
it over to you.
Perfect. Yeah, it'll come over in a big email that everybody's kind of attached to. I think, yeah, there's like 21 people on here.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate everybody being on here. I know it's a lot of information, easy to nod off while going through some of these. Yeah, but I feel that out of everything, about all the modules in First Do, that the assets module is like one of the most important, right? If we don't have good equipment, then we can't do our jobs. But I absolutely appreciate everybody taking your time out of your day. I know this isn't the only thing you do. So stay safe out there. I hope you have a great week and hopefully it's not too hot out there for you guys.
Thank you
Perfect,
again
thank
for
you.
setting this up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Any questions, concerns, feel free to reach out to me on Monday. I'm always available for you guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.
You too.